Real estate agents, do you want to move your business forward? Well, I'm here to help. Hey guys, Brittany with Brittany Hannon Real Estate. I'm a real estate agent, coach, and investor. And every Monday at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, I'm here to bring you information that's going to help move your business forward. Whether you're a brand new beginner or an advanced top producer, I'm going to bring you key tips and tricks and strategies to move your business forward. This is your official invitation to join us live every Monday at 11:30 a.m. They're totally free. And if you want more information about coaching, check the link in my bio and I would love to help. Now let's jump into this week's workshop. All right, we're talking today, open to close, navigating the life of a transaction. So today, what we're gonna be talking about is super important, and it's a topic that a lot of you have asked me about. What are the step-by-step guides to getting a transaction from open to close? So here is what we are jumping into today. Here's where we're going. We're gonna break it down step by step. We're gonna jump into command opportunities. We are gonna talk about our allied resources, who it's important to have and what their role is. Then we're gonna talk about what's important now. And at the end, there's gonna be a bonus. So hopefully we don't go over, but seemingly we have been going over a little bit. So I apologize if we do go over, but hopefully it'll be worth it for you. So I am going to kind of run through this next section where we're talking about the step-by-steps, because I want you to hear me, listen, take notes, and then go back and listen again on your own time, because this is going to be something that you're probably going to go back to time and time again, because until you're really comfortable with the process. All right, so let's break it down. The number one first thing is that you've gotten your offer accepted. Woohoo! So we celebrate. Usually the listing agent opens escrow. Your job on either side is to notify your TC. The common forms here, I'm putting them down below, is going to be the RPA and the RLA. So the residential purchase agreement, or the offer, and the RLA is the listing agreement. So the way we're going about this is I'm going to talk to you about both, whether you're representing the listing side or the buyer side. We're going to talk both sides of the transaction. So I'm going to tell you what we're doing on both sides of the transaction as we go. So offer accepted, listing agent usually opens escrow. Both sides are going to notify your TC, and then the forms you're going to use are the RLA or RPA. Step number 2, we wire in the funds. So escrow is going to contact your buyer to wire in the initial deposit within 3 days. Another thing that I'm doing as I go through this is I'm assuming this is a typical transaction. So meaning it's a typical transaction, meaning you are working with a lender, so it's not going to be a cash deal. And all of the defaults are going to be what they are on the RPA, defaulted on the RPA. So it's going to be 3 days is the default of when the wire fund is expected. There are options. You can change this to 5 days. You can shorten it, but the default is 3 days, and there's really no reason to change that. The next step is that the seller disclosures are going to be sent. So the SPQ and the TDS are the most important seller disclosures. That's going to be the seller property questionnaire and the transfer disclosure statement. In this, your seller is talking about what they know to be true about the property. So if they don't know about the roof, if they don't know how old it is, if they don't know what kind of condition it is, if they don't know about the plumbing or electrical or anything like that, they can put that they're unaware, that they don't know. But if they say, well, you know, I did have a plumber in here to redo all the plumbing to the mainline sewer, that's what they have to disclose. What we're telling them as the listing agent is you should err on the side of disclose more, because we want to make sure that the buyer doesn't come back and say, hey, you knew about this and didn't tell me. That's what these disclosures are for. So these are the most common. There are going to be others that come, but they're more so based on if there are other pieces of the transaction. So in a common typical transaction, SPQ and TDS which are done beforehand. So they're done usually before the property is even listed, unless it's going to be a long time before you list it. You want to get this done beforehand. You also want to get it done pretty close to when your buyers are going to receive it, because if they do it 3 months ago and now they've made some improvements or they've done different things, now they're going to have to fill out another TDS and SPQ. So the TDS and SPQ are sent to the buyers. The buyers have typically 7 days from the date that they receive it to sign off on it. Escrow orders NHD, which is your natural hazard disclosure, title insurance from the title insurance that you wrote on your RPA, and then other required documents, like if there are any HOA dues or things like that. They're going to be the ones to order all of that documentation. These are your seller disclosures. Now keep in mind that the disclosures are also a contingency. So if you don't remove that contingency, these disclosures are still in place, this disclosure contingency. So keep that in mind when we talk about removing contingencies. This is also a part of that. So when your buyer says, well, how do I know if I have a clear title? Escrow is ordering that title insurance to ensure that it's a clear title and there's no cloud on the title. And if there is, and they find it a little bit later, they're covered and protected because they still have that timeline in place where you probably have not removed that contingency. All right, what's step number 4? Step number 4 are going to be your inspections. We're kind of going in time order, but some of these kind of overlap. So for your inspections, the buyer agent schedules home and pest inspections. And remember, this is on a typical transaction. So if you have a transaction where you're working with somebody who wants to remove their inspection contingency up front, number 1, we never recommend doing that carte blanche. You want to make sure that there's, you want to tell them, we don't recommend this, help them understand the risks, and it's their choice whether they want to remove it or not. So usually if it's somebody who's like a contractor or somebody who is an experienced flipper or something like that, and they just want to waive inspections, I still am going to say, I don't recommend that. We still can get inspections and they're able to remove that. So typically you're going to have an inspection period of 17 days if you don't change that contingency period. The buyer agent schedules the home and pest inspections and any other buyer requests, any other inspections the buyer requests. So a lot of times what I tell my buyers is, okay, let's do the home inspection, and if anything else comes up from that, then we can schedule the subsequent inspection. So if they say, yeah, you have a leak in the main line, but I can't get to it, so you're going to have a qualified plumber out here. That's when we're going to schedule the plumber inspection. But if they don't call anything out, and there's nothing to worry about, then there's no need to schedule that plumber. Now, if the buyer does want to waive, there is a BIW, buyer inspection waiver, that can be sent to be able to waive that inspection. And on there, it clearly states you're doing so against the advice of your agents. So keep that in mind. You do have that option, but we're talking about a typical transaction here. The next step is an appraisal. Again, a typical transaction. So if you're in this transaction where it's, you waive your appraisal contingency or it's cash offer and you don't have to worry about it, then good, you don't have to worry about it. When you have a loan, you almost always have to have an appraisal. Now I say almost because there are times when the lender is able to waive the appraisal, so you don't have to worry about that. So your lender orders the appraisal. You as the agent do not order the appraisal. And if you're the buyer's agent, you are just informed maybe if the appraisal has been ordered and when it has been scheduled, because they always schedule the appraisers with the listing agent to be able to get into the house or if they need to go see the house. So you as a buyer's agent don't really have to worry about this. You as the listing agent do want to be aware that this is probably something that they're going to schedule with you, but the lender is the one who orders it. And so you don't have to worry about ordering that. What you need to do is just confirm from the lender if it has been ordered, when it will be ordered, all of that good stuff. One thing to keep in mind about this is something that your buyer pays whether they close or not. So if you're on the fence about it, or if they're on the fence about it, this may be something that we want to wait. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you shorten those contingencies and you say, we're going to get an appraisal ordered within 3 days, you have to make sure your lender knows that, and you have to make sure that your buyer knows that that is going to be an added fee for them. So keep that in mind, that that is, when you shorten those timelines, it does make a difference. I mean, when you shorten any of the timelines, it makes a difference. But for instance, if you shorten the inspection contingency, you just need to be on the ball to make sure you can get those inspections done quickly, which you usually can. If you do a rushed appraisal, it usually comes at an added cost. So keep that one in mind. Then we do the request for repair. Now, this is something that you can do this or not. So if you don't have a request for repair, if your buyer says, nope, everything is good, we don't want to ask for anything, great. You don't have to worry about that. So the buyer's agent sends a request for repair or credits if it's desired by the buyer. So even if you don't do a request for actual repairs, you still use the RR form, which is the request for repair. The RR form has a section where you put that the buyer requests credits be done. The RR form also has a section where you can say the section 1 termite termite stuff needs to be remediated. And that a lot of times is going to be at the request of a lender if it's a certain type of loan. Those are reasons why you need to be in constant connection with your lender to know what are the things that are going to be hiccups. Now, remember, we want to stay in our lane. So we want to make sure that we as the agent are not crossing over and giving advice as if we were a lender, but we also need to make sure that we understand as the agent, it's our job to proactively make sure that this is moving along. So it's our job to communicate regularly with the lenders. It's our job to communicate regularly with escrow and with everything that's going on, because we need to be proactive about making sure our deal is going to go through. So the forms that you need to consider there are the RR and the RRRR. The RRRR is the response for request for repair, and that is what the listing agent is sending to the seller. That's the seller's response. And so they're saying either, yes, we'll agree to everything, no, we'll agree to nothing, or here we'll agree to something and kind of meet in the middle. Actually, let me just comment on that. On the request for repair, there is the default is that if the seller agrees and signs off on it, then that's removing the inspection contingency. So now your client, once everything is agreed upon, they cannot back out of the deal due to inspections. So keep that in mind. They can still back out of the deal, but they cannot back out and get their initial deposit back if they do it outside of contingency periods. But that the RR, those remove those contingencies. So the AVID, both buyer and listing agents fill out the AVID, and this is where this is kind of in a weird spot. For a listing agent, this is usually at the beginning, like when you're in there doing photos or when you're in there getting the SPQ and TDS, you want to fill out the AVID. Now the AVID, for those of you who don't know or don't remember or need a memory jogger, this is the agent visual inspection disclosure. So it's as you as the agent are going through and seeing there are stains on the ceiling, stains on the floor, there are stains in the grout in the bathroom, those kind of things. You're not elaborating, you're not saying, you're not getting super specific, you're not using any adjectives. It's not big or gross or dirty or nasty. It's just a stain somewhere. So both the buyers and the listing agents fill this out. The purpose of the AVID is to make sure that your buyer understands everything that they're seeing. It's just a disclosure. You want to make sure that if you're seeing that stain in the ceiling, you're not a professional to be able to say this is a water stain and this is coming from a leak in the roof, because you don't necessarily know that. So you want to just point it out and say there is a stain. Now it's the buyer's job to say, oh, I want to deal with that. I want to make sure that we see what that is. Or they say, okay, noted. I see that that's there. We'll deal with it at another time. All we need to do is disclose so that they can't come back to us later and say, well, you knew that this house was falling down around me and you didn't tell me because there was a stain in the ceiling and I didn't know about it. Our job is just to say, here it is. I'm seeing this. I'm noticing this. Are you also noticing it and you're okay with moving forward? Yes. Okay, let's go. Now comes the contingency removals. So again, the default for contingency removals for a lot of them is 17 days for the loan appraisal and the inspection. It's 17 days. You can shorten those, you can extend those depending on how you want to make your offer stand out. If you shorten timelines and contingencies, a lot of times that's gonna make your offer look better to the sellers. So once you get to those contingency removal timelines, remember, they do not expire. They need to be proactively removed. So if you as the listing agent know that these dates are coming up, you should be on it to be requesting that they be removed. If you as the buyer's agent know that there's, you know, the loan is supposed to go through, but I don't know, there are some things that we're not quite sure about yet, do not remove those contingencies yet, because you can do an extension for a contingency removal, but you cannot, but you have to remove it proactively. So the CR is a contingency removal. And just a note about this is that in different markets, it's common practice to do different things. In certain markets, it's common practice to not remove them unless the listing agent is pushing for it. In other markets, it's common courtesy to remove them when they are due. So you just kind of need to know what is common practice in your market center. And also the key is to be communicating with the other side. You want to make sure that you're communicating with the other side to let them know where you stand in all of this. Then we schedule the final walkthrough. So the final walkthrough, in the final walkthrough, the buyer walks through the property within 5 days of closing to verify the condition is satisfactory. It's in basically the same condition as it was when you first saw it. You're filling out a form called the VP, the verification of property, and the goal is that you don't write anything on this form, because what the form says is everything was satisfactory except, and then you list the things that are the except. Now, what you really want to make sure that you're doing is before the lender funds the loan, before anything happens, you want to make sure that these things have been taken care of. You want to talk to your lender and say, hey, we're still waiting on a few things because the sellers haven't moved out yet, or their tenants are still there, or we're having trouble and we won't get possession. It doesn't seem like we'll get possession on closing. So keep that in mind, that your final walkthrough does mean something, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's still living in the property. All right, number 10, you get your clear to close. Now, what this means is a lot of people think clear to close means that you're going to be able to close that same day, and you will not. All the clear to closes is the lender confirms final approval, oops, typo, and sends forms to escrow for the buyer to get signed and notarized. So all of this is now they have to do a bunch of signing. So if you notice, there's a lot of stuff for the buyers to do in the front end and a lot of stuff for the buyers to do in the back end. In the middle, it's kind of quiet. So if you want to prep your clients and let them know, your buyers, that's what it's going to be. Same thing for the listing. It's a lot of work on the front end to prep your listing and get it ready and fill out those disclosures and all of that. But really after that, it's kind of no big deal. You're looking at the forms. You know, one thing I didn't mention were the counter offers. So there's the SCO, SMCO, BCO. These are the seller counter offer, seller multiple counter offer, buyer counter offer. So keep that in mind. That would have been over in the beginning. But as the listing agent or as the seller, there's not a ton to do once it's confirmed. As the listing agent, your job is to facilitate and keep those lines of communication open and make sure that things are happening when they're supposed to be happening. All right, next step, wire the down payment. The buyer sends final funds into escrow. and then you record and close. Record with the city and close, and then the buyers receive keys upon recordation. Meaning that as soon as it's closed, whether it's 10 a.m., noon, whatever, that's when the buyers are able to take possession. Now they're going to schedule it with you to make sure that they can get their funds and get their keys and everything in order. So it's not, a lot of times we talk about going to the closing table. There is no real closing table anymore. It's kind of like you send the funds in and then you record and close. Recording in some counties can happen the same day, and some counties it cannot. It has to happen the next day. So you just have to know that, like, from your clear to close to your actual recordation could be 3 days, maybe 4 days, sometimes 2 days. It really depends on how, number one, how fast your buyer clients are to move forward, and number two, what your county will allow for as far as moving forward through the end of this process. So that's why it's important when we tell you to put a date on the RPA of when you're going to close, because we always want it to be really like a Wednesday, because a lot of times they have this close date as a Friday, and if anything goes wrong, it's going to be pushed to the next business day, which at the soonest is going to be Monday. But if there's a holiday or something, which we're going to be running into lots of holidays coming up, you're going to be pushed to, 2 or 3 days after you initially were set to close. So you want to make sure that you're trying to close on like a Tuesday or Wednesday so that you give yourself plenty of wiggle room. All right. Hey guys, we're going to jump into the workshop in just a second, but if you're getting value out of this, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you get more videos just like this as soon as they come out. And remember, if you're interested in coaching, reach out to me at the link below. I'd love to talk more about your individual business and how I could help move your business forward. Now let's jump back into the workshop. All right, so we broke it down. We talked about step-by-step how you go through, what are the forms that you use. Now I want us to dig into opportunities in command. So hopefully you guys have, oh man, I did not have this. Oh, here it is. Hopefully you guys have your command available to walk through this with me. What we're going to do is, hold on, while that is heating up, we're going to talk about opportunities and checklists. I've talked before about how checklists are so helpful and important within opportunities in command. And today I'm going to show you how to do that, or I'm going to show you how to do your checklists and how to get it in here. So hopefully this is going to wake up for us. All right. So where we're going to be is we're going to be in this opportunities section in command. So I'm going to click straight into the opportunities. There are a couple of ways to get there. We've talked about it before. You can go into your client's portal. So if you go to contacts and click on your person, there is an opportunities tab that you can click on and either create an opportunity or just jump to their opportunity. So what I'm going to do is, first off, you can see here, we have listing opportunities, we have buyer opportunities, and then we have lease opportunities. Now, I actually don't look at mine because I do something different with mine. But we never coach to the leasing because that's not what most of our market centers do. We do residential real estate, which is buying and selling. But on this page, you can see how you have the probable, the potential, the activity that happens over time. And so you want to make sure that you kind of get comfortable with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with create an opportunity. Now, what I encourage you to do is get in here and play with this and create a sample opportunity. So I'm going to click on this, and remember that when you're creating an opportunity, make sure to call it sample or test, because your compliance is going into your command and able to see this. And if they're seeing that you have a property listed at 123 Main Street, they're going to reach out and say, oh, I didn't know about this. Give me more information. And you're going to say, no, I was playing around. So you want to make sure that you're labeling it something accurate. All right, so the opportunity type, let's go ahead and do a listing here. Now, this is the only thing you cannot change once it is put in. So make sure that you've done accurately your buyer or listing side of things. Then we're going to put in a client. Let's see, Mickey Mouse. Let's do Mickey Mouse here. And you can put in a co-seller. Let's see, Minnie Mouse. Now, if they're not in here, we can add a new contact here with this button, or you can add a new contact separately and add them on, give them this opportunity. But for right now, we're going to just do Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. Now, here's the opportunity name. Here's where we're going to make sure to say sample. What I like to do is if it's a listing, I'm going to write in the address because our compliance, our TCs, all of those people, they use the address to be able to filter through. They don't necessarily use the client's name. So I'm going to say 123 Main Street and then still have the client's name because I use the client's name more so than the address. So I want to make sure I have all this in so that when I go into search or filter, I have all this information in here. So it defaults to say Mickey Mouse listing. I can say Mickey and Minnie Mouse listing. I can remove this listing part, but this is fine for me. I'm going to leave this as is. Now, you see down here, there are only a couple of things that have the red asterisk, which means those are the only things that I have to put in here. But when we put, the more information we put in here, the more information is going to be put into our, like over here, the potential income, probable income, all of that. So if we go here and say, it's October 16th today, so it'll probably close. If it's a fast close, we could probably do it by the end of November. Time frame, let's say it's going to be about 1 month, but you see you have options to do 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So anytime you have somebody who says, yes, I want to list my house, you should be putting them in an opportunity. Or if you have somebody who says, yes, I want to buy, start an opportunity for them. This is one other way that you can do a workflow where you can create tasks for yourself to remind yourself of what to do. But otherwise, you want to just make sure that they're in here so you can be tracking for yourself because it's very helpful. So let's say the estimated list price is going to be $1 million. Commission rate is going to be 3% because, of course, we're full fee agents. Opportunity phase, this is where you're going to say, where are you? Is it active? Probably, let's say it's an appointment and we've scheduled our appointment. So these, remember, they have the asterisk, so you have to add them in. And now I'm going to say create. Now you can see I have all this information, so it's pretty easy for me to click on it and I can go to contacts. I can get their phone number and their email right here. If I have, now this being here, select from listings, this is not going to be helpful for you because you haven't listed it yet. So this only comes from listings that have been done in the past. You're not going to be able to use this, so just ignore this. Now, what I want to do is I want to put in this property information. So I'm going to put in country, address, 123 Main Street, let's say Los Angeles, because it popped up there, and let's say we're good to go. Okay, so there are lots of pieces of information that we can put in here. We don't have to put this in here, and remember, the more that we put in here, the more it's going to help us stay on track. So you don't have to put any of these things on here, but you can, and the way we do that is we just press on this little pencil, and you can put, you can track some of these things. So our staging date, we're going to say the 20th, or photography date is the 20th. Our staging date is the 18th. Our target live date is the 27th. All of this kind of stuff. You can put all of that in here. Financial information, you can edit it here. Then we have, these are parties to the transaction. This is very helpful when you are done with the transaction and it's been, 6 months to a year, and they say, hey, who was that lender that we worked with again? And you say, well, I have a couple different lenders. Who did I have them work with? You can go here and see who was the lender that they worked with. Or if they have an attorney that was working closely with them, here's where you can put that information. So it's very helpful to have this here, because when you have done a bunch of transactions, they get muddled in your head. And so this just helps to keep everything where it's supposed to be. Insurance, this is a good one. Title, who'd you use for title? Co-broker, if this is something that you did like a co-listing with, you can write that on there.
Do those go into your contacts as vendors or anything, or do you have to?
You can either pull it from your contacts, or you would create it into your contacts.
Okay.
So like if I select home warranty, and then, yeah, see, if I'm like typing in choice, I could create
there you go.
a new contact,
okay, cool.
or, oh, I'd have to create a new contact. I guess I need to do that. So yeah, you'd have to create it as a contact, because then that's all the contact information. Then you'd be able to click on it and go straight to them.
Okay.
Now this seller worksheet, I like to get, this is basically their net sheet. And I like to get this information from escrow. I basically give them some of the basics, and then they create a seller net sheet for me of what the seller is going to net. It's helpful for me to know. It's helpful for my seller to know. And then I put the basics in here, because I want to be sure that I know kind of like where we're going to be, because, if I'm listing $1 million home and we lower the price by $50,000 at some point, which is not unheard of right now, we need to make sure that the rest of these percentages, that net income is going to be adjusted. Now, I'm going to click this, show net on offer comparison. And actually, let me do some of these. So let's say their mortgage balance is $100,000. The buyer's agent commission is 3%. Seller commission 3%. Prorated taxes, let's say $1,000. Prorated HOA, let's say none. Seller closing costs, let's say $6,000. And I'm going to say yes, show net on offer comparison. So I'm going to show you what this means in just a second, but don't get too hung up on this, because this might be a little bit, this might be beyond beginner level. I like to do these I like to show you, so no matter what level you're at, you can get an idea for it, but don't get hung up on this. This description, you could put in here your MLS description in here. Again, just to kind of be able to refer back to it. Remember, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So you want to make sure that you have all this information here. Now, as we move through these little tabs, you'll see here that there are some new things that they're doing. Now, I've actually not ever used this yet, but it's pretty cool, because it tells you, it gives you marketing based on where you are in the transaction. So right now it's going to give us a listing presentation, but if we said we were further along, it might show a just listed postcard or a just sold postcard. So this is a cool thing to play around with. Oh, that's what it says. Based on opportunity phase, change the phase and you'll see a new set of recommendations. So then if we go here to documents, this is a really important page for you to know that it's there. Now, for the most part, your TC is going to come and they're going to put all of your necessary documents in here, but you can also add things to it. So let's pick a checklist type so I can show you this. We're going to say residential, and it's going to automatically say, here are all of the documents that are required, that are conditional, that are, well, a bunch of these are conditional. But you can see it says condition, if the expiration date of the listing changes, circulate this form, modification of terms. So you can see MT, modification of terms for price. So if the listing price changes, this form must be circulated. So you don't have to circulate these unless you have a change. Now, SELM or coming soon status. if excluded from the MLS, the completed SELM, which is like seller exclusion from listing on the multiple listing service, something like that, and page 1 of the listing agreement must be sent to the board's agent as a member participant. Oops. The property will be in coming soon status, then upload the CRMLS form. These are all things that your TC is going to do for you or ask you for. So basically you need to be able to put into the MLS that it's in registered status. This, I believe, I don't think this is board specific, but you may want to reach out to your board to say, what the heck is she talking about? But when we talk about getting your listing agreement signed, I always say get them signed as soon as you can, even if you're not going to list it for another month or two, because I don't want to risk not having that signed listing agreement. But if I'm not going to list it for a month or two, I need to make sure that I have this form in here. So
yeah, I think, I mean, we've got like 2 to 3 days to register it. And then, you know, so I was going to ask you on like,
you usually have like 24 to 48 business hours. So if you did it on a Friday, then you have until like Monday or Tuesday.
Right. To at least register it.
To register it.
And then
but you still have to have this form.
Yeah. And then, I mean, so that was the biggest, a big question with me as far as when you go do a listing presentation and then, you know, you got tons of work that you need to do on the property before before it launches.
Yep.
You know, how do you determine all, you know, timeframes and coming soons and when you post all that stuff?
Well, what I do is I tell them, hey, this is kind of an estimate of what we want to do. We can always change it later because you have all those forms to change the date, to change the price, to change all that kind of stuff. But so I want to get that listing.
You register the listing though, and then.
So you register the listing, which is different from coming soon or active. It's essentially inactive. And right. So it doesn't count for your days on market. It doesn't count for any of that stuff. That will be a board specific question on how you do that in your MLS. Cause I know even for mine, it's like kind of weird how you do it. But that would be a question for them. I just know that as far as on our end, we want to make sure we get the listing agreement signed, and there are ways to make sure that we have it signed and are still following all the rules.
Right.
So even because I agree, I'm never gonna sign a listing and be able to have it go live in a day and a half. I need time to get the photos up, to get staging done potentially, to get it clean, to get, you know, stuff taken care of. So I want to make sure that I have that listing agreement signed beforehand. So you do have ways around
like
that.
I've heard stories of like even putting up a coming soon or something like that, and having work done on the house, and the photographer comes out and there's a dumpster in front of the home and all that, and it's like,
yeah, you don't want to rush it, and there's no need to rush it unless your seller is like, I need to get this done so fast. There's no need to rush it. That's what these forms are for.
Okay.
So you can see you have all of these downloaded, and you're pulling from my computer. Now, there is a way, if I go to start a transaction, this is going to start a transaction in DocuSign. And I know that a lot of people use zip forms and not DocuSign. So I'm not going to waste too much time on this other than to say, if you start this transaction in DocuSign, it makes it so that you can easily upload things, and your TC is probably not going to use this component anyway. So unless you really want to use DocuSign, you don't have to use this. This is just, I personally do use it because I think it's a little more user friendly. But if you're already comfortable with zip forms, just use zip forms. If you get stuck, because what it's going to tell you is you're going to go in, and we have videos in the PC toolkit about this. But if you go into DocuSign, it's going to tell you to be able to pull up the zip forms, you need to sign in, and it's not the sign in that you would know. So you have to recreate it, and we do have a video on how to do that. It's pretty easy, but it's not just like click and go, unfortunately. So I'm not going to go into that today because I know a lot of you do use zip forms. So if you use zip forms, that's totally fine. You can upload everything as a PDF, like it says here, from your computer, and that's mostly what your TC will also do. So what you can see here is under contract, it's going to have a whole other list of forms that are required and conditional and all of that. Oh, and optional. And then under closed, it's going to have more. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to have all of your documents stored here for all of time. So if there's ever a lawsuit that comes for you, if there's ever anything, all of your documents are stored here. One of the best documents to be able to send your clients as a follow-up is this final closing statement. Because this final closing statement, they're going to need for their taxes. So it's for their first year. So it's a really good thing to be able to follow up and say, hey, you're going to need this for your taxes. Also, do you know anyone else who's thinking of selling? Hey, it's been a long time. We should get together. Whatever it is, it gives you a reason to reach out to them. So this final closing statement. The other thing that that our buyers ask us for a lot, or mine, I guess, is this home warranty invoice. Because it tells the home warranty information. So if they say, hey, I know I got a home warranty, but I can't find the information in this whole packet. Do you happen to have it? I can pull it up right there. I can see who the representative is. I can see all of that, reach out and have them reach out and provide excellent customer service even after we close. So these are two things that I think are very helpful, and all of your files are stored here. These are the most common ones that I go back and reach out for. Now, remember, your TC is mostly going to be uploading this, and then it goes to your compliance department within KW. So your compliance is going to be reaching out and saying, hey, this is approved, this wasn't approved, we're missing a signature, all of that kind of stuff. Your TC is going to handle all of that. Your job is to just make sure that that is getting handled, because you don't want to get into a situation where it's not handled, where somebody dropped the ball and forgot, whatever it is. So it is your job to make sure that these things are getting handled. But for the most part, that's what that's why you've hired your TC. They're going to take that and run with it. Then in this section, this is going to be offers and commissions. So this is where your commission is going to live. If you're like, what am I getting paid and how is it being distributed and all of that, that's where this is going to come in handy for you. The other thing that I really like on here is this offer. Well, this is an offer timeline, but if I add a new offer, I'm gonna do this for you just because I think it's really cool and nobody really knows it's here. So if I have this initial offer, I'm gonna leave this as is. I'm just gonna run through this real quick. The parties are gonna be Donald Duck. Mickey Mouse is of course the seller. We're going to say, yes, they're pre-approved. Yes, they're pre-qualified. Remember, pre-approved is the gold standard. That's the one we want. We don't want to see a pre-qualification. And then the associate's name is going to be who they're represented by. And let's say Goofy is their agent. Now we're going to go to terms. And this is where we're going to write out that this is going to be, they're going to pay cash for $1 million. Now, what you would normally do is the cash is the down payment, the financed amount is how much they're financing, and then the sales price is what they're offering. Their earnest money, let's say 3%. And the option fee, we don't use an option fee in California, but I've helped my sister purchase out of state, and in different states, in Texas, for sure. This option fee is basically like they're willing to pay you money during the contingency period. And if they pull out during the contingency period, they don't get that option fee back. But if they do, then the seller gets that option fee. Anyway, we don't use this, so it's fine. This termination, also, we don't need to worry about it. Seller costs. So this is if the buyer is requesting a credit back or for anything like that. This is where the seller costs come in. Then we go to the agent analysis where I can say, oh, this is a cash deal. The cons are that, I don't know, there are no cons. And then we can put a summary in here. Then we save this. So it's listed here, but here's where we really like it. If I go to add initial offer 2, create a different offer, we're saying that Daisy wants to buy this house. Also pre-approved, also pre-qualified, and also Goofy is her agent. Let's go to the terms. Now she's going to offer 1.1 million in all cash. She's also going to put 3% down for an earnest money, and everything else is going to be the same. So the pros now are going to be a cash offer and over asking price. No cons, and then the summary, you can add the summary later, but for the sake of time, I don't want to. Now what we're going to do is we're going to compare these offers. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to go to compare offers. And now it comes through in kind of like an Excel format. I can download it, send the PDF to my client, and now you're looking at a side-by-side comparison. Now, you're going to also see that because of this net to you, this is because we had initially written in all of those fees that were going to be charged. So now we're able to see the net to the seller with Daisy's offer is going to be $65,000. The net with Donald's offer is going to be $59,000. So when you're talking to somebody who really knows numbers and is really concerned about getting the biggest bang for their buck, you're really going to be able to showcase that with this net to the seller button that you just checked. I really like this tool, and I honestly use it all the time. This is something that, you know, like when we were getting 45 offers, basically I would tell them, okay, this offer was under asking, this offer was under asking, this offer was this offer was this. Here are the top 3 that I think you should consider. And I still present all of the offers, but the top 3 are going to be listed in this side-by-side comparison. So you can see how this is really a nice tool to use because it's quick and easy. And I don't have to do any work to make it look pretty or beautiful or whatever. It's all in command already. All right, so when we go back to the offers, you're gonna see that you have these and you're gonna say either accept or reject. And then that's, once you've accepted or rejected one, it's gonna be grayed out, and then you're gonna see your commission once that commission disbursement is received and accepted and everything. Here's where you can keep some notes. Keep in mind, this is about the specific transaction. This is not about your client. And so if you have notes about your client, you want to keep that in their profile notes. This is about this specific transaction. And then this timeline button, this is really just keeping track of like when you input things in here. So I would have liked it to be something that is more like in this details page where it has like these timelines. That's kind of what I was hoping for with a timeline, but that's not what it is. So anyway, you can use that as you'd like. Okay, and you can generate a transaction summary that tells you key dates, transaction dates, all that kind of stuff, and you can send that to your seller. That's kind of a nice tool to use, this transaction summary. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to jump back and I'm going to show you our checklists, because remember, that's something that's a really important tool. On the buyer side, it's essentially the same thing. The only difference is that you're not going to have a property to put in here until you have an offer sent. Now, what I like to do is I like to have a separate opportunity for every offer that I submit. Not every house that we visit, but every offer we submit, I want to have a separate transaction. So in that case, I can put in the property, and I can put as the title the specific property that we're offering on. And then if they don't get approved or rejected, then we just mark this as a lost opportunity and it falls off of our opportunity list. So let's go back and go into our checklist stages. So let me just move this guy. Now, remember, anytime you need to move them from different places, you're just clicking and dragging. Makes it really super easy. So we have here our sample, and you can see that we have 0 out of 1. If you are looking on your own command, you're not going to see that. You're going to see 0 out of 0 because you have to put in your checklists. So let me click on this and see what that is. So in this appointment stage, it's sending the listing agreement. So it's a reminder to me to send the listing agreement, and also just making sure that I've gotten it back, that I've received it, that it's signed, that I have it in here. So once I click on that, we say, okay, good, we got that listing agreement signed. And remember that these are going to be different for each, oops, I keep doing that. They've switched this on me. This checkbox is marked as complete. That's what that is. So now it says it's been completed. If I say, okay, well, I sent it, but they haven't completed it yet, I can now add a due date and say, okay, I really need to make sure that I get it back on the 20th. So let me apply that. And now this is going to be populated into my command tasks. So now it's going to show me that I have a task due of getting this listing signed. So I can do that, and then I can mark it as complete once I get it, and then it removes it from my task list. So this is super, super helpful. Now, if we go to, and now it changed to 1 of 1 is done. Now I'm going to move this over to active. Whoops. I'm going to say, okay, now Mickey Mouse is inactive, and you can see that I have 0 out of 2. So let's go to the checklist. Send seller disclosures, order mid-listing gift. Now this is something that you can do this, you don't have to do this, but this is what I have on my checklist. Where I've pulled the checklist is for those of you in coaching. In the PC Agent Toolkit, there's a transaction checklist. If you download that, if you pull that up, you can put every single item in that checklist in a different phase and different part of your opportunity. That's where I initially pulled this, and then I've tweaked it over time. So I want to make sure to send the seller disclosures. Now, here's the thing is that I want my TC to send these disclosures. So I want to make sure that I'm sending it to that I'm asking my TC, hey, can you make sure that these seller disclosures are sent? So basically what I'm doing is as soon as I get that listing agreement signed, I will send it over to my TC, and then I'll say, can you send the seller disclosures? They'll send the seller disclosures, and then it's my job to reach out to my seller and say, hey, did you get those? Let me explain to you what these are if I haven't already, that kind of thing. But I don't have to send the seller disclosures. I just need to make sure that it's gotten done. That's what I mean about when, your job as the agent is to be proactive and kind of the go-between. So you need to make sure that you are staying up to date on what's going to be happening, and this is going to help you with that. So if you say, I don't need to order a mid-listing gift because I already have, something little, mark it as complete, great, check it off. So now what I'm going to do, okay, say done. What I want to do is show you how we create these, because this is going to be the key, is that you can see, they're helpful, and once we go into marketing and showing, there are going to be 11 tasks to do. Photography ordered, put your sign out, get your keys, put out a lockbox, add to the MLS, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff to do. Now keep in mind, oops, hold on, sorry. Keep in mind, these can all be edited. So if you say, well, I'm not going to put a sign out on this one because my seller does not want me to put a sign out. You can edit this, or you can archive it. You can delete it completely. And if you want to add something to this specific transaction, remember, it's just this transaction. It's not every transaction. We're going to go up here and say create task. And we're going to say schedule a mega open house. And you can write a description of what that means. And it's going to be in the opportunity phase that we currently are in. Priority level, let's say that's a high priority. And then let's schedule a due date for a couple days from now. Apply, create. And now it's going to be added to this one transaction. Okay, so let's go back and let's say we want to create, because you guys don't have anything created right now, probably. So if we go to stages and checklists, this little edit, and you can do this from any part of your of the opportunity. Click on stages and checklist, and you can say we're currently in the active stage. So if we wanted to go to the appointment stage, we need to go to the appointment stage and edit through there. In the active stage, you can see for prep the listing, we have 2 items, for marketing and showing 11. This essentially is your template. So if you change this, it's going to change it for everything. So when you're first initially setting it up, this is what you want to do. So we're going to go in and we're going to, what are we going to do? No, that's if you want to change the name of it and change your conversion. I'm going to check on checklist. Now remember, if I add an item, it's going to add it to every transaction from here on out. So that's okay. We just have to know that. This client update, if you mark this box, you'll see a little email envelope. This is only, your client is only going to get this if they are signed up through the app. So you have to make sure that they're signed up through this if you want to take advantage of these client updates. Otherwise, this might be a good thing to know if they're not signed up through the portal. Then when this happens, you can just make a mental note to yourself that you need to be the one to follow up with them, or you need to send something to them. But that's what this client update is. And just know it's not going to send anything automatically if they're not signed up through the portal. And if we want to add an item, we just go in here and add schedule open house, include a client update. Sure. We can add a description, again, do all of these things, priority level, let's say high. I like to change things to a high priority level because then I filter it through my tasks. If my tasks get too big and overwhelming, I can filter through high priority and then I see the things that are at the top of my list. Okay, and then we can say create. Now I don't want to create this because I want to leave mine as is, but you'll see it'll be added here. Then we want to say save. And there you go. So it's going to tell you how many of these things are set up for client updates. And again, they're only going to get it if they're signed up through the portal. So remember, you can change these on every single transaction. And what you're doing is you're pulling from your transaction checklist and you're putting it into here. These are all going to be things that you either need to follow up with or you need to do yourself. So a lot of these things are not going to be for you to do yourself. It's going to be that the lender does it. It's going to be, let's see. So even we have social media things, market on social media. Okay. On the buyer side, there are going to be more that are like talking about the, you know, make sure that the appraisal has been submitted, make sure that it's been confirmed, make sure that it's been scheduled and that kind of thing. Which again, you don't have to do that. You're just following up with your lender to make sure they're doing that. All right, I'm going to jump back to moving on from this. Hopefully that was helpful for you. We talked about commanding your opportunities, and opportunities within command is a really, really helpful tool because now you can go and you can say, like even when I go back to my opportunities, I can see, okay, I have 18 in cultivate. Have I reached out to these people lately? Do I need to check in? This would be a good thing to add to your calendar to make sure that your opportunities are up to date and that you're actually doing them. All right, so let's jump in and talk about your allied resources. We're just gonna touch on these and talk about them real quick, but your allied resources essentially is your team. Who are these people that you need to know, get to know, and what do they do? So a lender. You need to make sure that you have a key lender that you go to, that you refer your clients to, because you need to make sure that you have great communication with them. Your transaction coordinator, your TC, this is a person who is going to manage your whole transaction. And so you want to make sure that you know exactly what they need from you and what you expect from them. They're going to give you a timeline of the important dates. They're going to keep you on track with remembering when things are due and things like that. So your transaction coordinator is going to be a big help to you. Escrow. Escrow is essentially, they take the RPA or they take the contracts they're given and they make sure that they are executed. And so they're not making any changes. They're not doing anything. They're just saying, this is what was written. This is what we're doing. Escrow is another one that you need to make sure that you have a good relationship with because they can help in a tough transaction. They can step in and help to make sure things are going smoothly. Your title reps, what happens during the transaction is that they are going to be, you know, making sure there are no clouds on title, making sure title is clear, making sure all of that. And most of the time, I would say, there's nothing on title that we need to worry about. If there is, that's when your title person really jumps in and like helps figure some stuff out. But one of the things that they do also separately from this is that a lot of times you hear us say, talk to your title rep when you want to get addresses and phone numbers, or you want to establish a farm or things like that, because your title reps are the ones who have a lot of this information for you. So it's really totally kind of separate from title, but you want to get to know your title reps. All of these people who we're talking about, most of them are usually in your team meetings, and they're introducing themselves. They're usually at the board level, introducing themselves, and it's really who you have a connection with. You can also reach out to your front desk to ask who the preferred vendors are, or who the preferred affiliates are. Your NHD, this is the home warranty. So it's another good idea for you to just have a conversation with your home warranty person to see who they are and what they do. I mean, NHD is natural hazard disclosure, sorry. Home warranty is something different. So home warranty is also somebody you need to have a good relationship with. They can also offer you a lot of things. A lot of the NHD and home warranty people, title, escrow, they all give you, free stuff that you can use in your business, like door hangers, bags, if you want to, hand stuff out, do some door drops, stuff like that. They're going to help you with that. But their real job, they're doing this because they want to bring you in and they want you to use them and use them in your business. So home warranty is when most of the time you decide who the home warranty person is. As the agent, as the buyer's agent, you decide who home warranty is, and you're going to be putting their name down in the RPA. Now, of course, if your buyer has someone that they want to use, you would do that. But for the most part, not very many people have a home warranty person that they want to use. So this home warranty person is going to be your contact for, like, if something goes wrong in their house, if something happens, you want to make sure you know who this home warranty is. And then finally, your compliance in your office. So compliance is going to be who's checking on these forms, making sure they're filled out correctly, making sure you get paid right. You want to know who your compliance person is, and you want to just kind of like know how to contact them easily. All right, so how do we win? What is important now? Thank you guys for sticking with me. What's important now is to create your checklist. We went over that, and it's such a helpful tool. And so I highly, highly recommend that you schedule some time this week to make sure that you're going from a checklist and putting it into your opportunities. It's really, I think, going to be a game changer for you. Meet your team. Schedule meetings with your allied resources so that you can be ready when you have a transaction. You don't want to be meeting these people when you have a transaction and you say, oh my gosh, who do I need to know, and who do I need to go to, and who do I write down for all these things? Meet your team, see what they do, see how they can help you, and do it right now when you have the time. And then practice your opportunities. Create sample opportunities before you have a transaction, because the same thing, you're going to be like running around like a chicken with your head cut off if you don't do it, if you have never practiced this before. I will say for opportunities, a lot of times your TC will, or not a lot of times, your TC will create your opportunity if you haven't already created one. So you don't have to create them, but like I was telling you before, I highly recommend that you would create them for yourself, because you can use them for your own workflow. All right, and oh, my bonus thing didn't come in here. Sorry about that. I guess you don't get a bonus today. Next week, I'll give you a double bonus. All right, and next week, we're talking about unlocking financial freedom, how to spend your commission check. This is always a good one. People always want to know this. Hopefully, you have some good commission checks coming. Hopefully, next spring, you will start having really good commission checks coming. Remember, there's all this talk about recession. We should not be afraid of recession. People buy and sell in every single market. It's our job to find those buyers and sellers. So hopefully you are getting commission checks. You are needing to figure out how to spend them. And if not, let's take this time to set yourself up for success. So I will see you next Monday at 11:30, same time, same place. And we're going to be talking about unlocking your financial freedom. Well, I hope that helped. And remember, I'm here every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to help you move your business forward. Join me in the weekly workshops where you can come live and get your questions answered in real time. I would love to see you there. Register at the link below. And remember, if you have questions about coaching or want to dive in, or even just want to have a call to me to see how you can grow your business, schedule a call with me in the link below. I'd love to help. In the meantime, if you're getting value out of this, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for staying for the whole thing. Check out the other videos that we have that are sure to move your business forward. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.